Love, it has been good to me this time around. Things were ever bound to change when it was found. Sugar never tasted sweeter on my lips. My heart is now intact and I can find Well, hello, good evening, and welcome to today's episode of the Xrad Show, the talk show that really does get you talking on the Xandermonium Network, live from New York City. I'm Xander Gibb.
I'm Tony Losacco.
Oh, yes, sir. On today's show, the hottest of topics, and in part 2, Thomas S Schmitz joins us to break down what's been going on this week in these United States. Don't forget to put your mute button on, Tony. More to come in a mere moment. So you can tweet us. The tweet deets are on the Xrad Facebook show page for today. You can comment in the live feed around the live video, and we will endeavor to involve you in the conversation. Hey, chat, I see you there. Does that mean you can comment now? Are you out of Facebook jail? Do tell. Welcome back to the show, Tony. How is the world with you, sir?
Well, the world's doing okay. I mean, I've got some rages to report today from the national news media.
Oh, really?
I'm filled with rage this week over some of the news stories I've seen, and especially some of the jokers I've encountered on Facebook that don't want to face reality.
Well, there's a lot of them out there, let's face it. But tell us, take a deep breath and tell us what has bothered you this week.
Okay, I think the LGBTQ community has turned into a national tragedy, okay? It's tragic. I mean, they can't say they're advocating for anything anymore when they're inventing reasons to be offended. More than that, when they're stealing the offensive of other people.
Right.
I mean, are you a conservative, Xander?
I am, 200%.
You would label yourself a conservative?
Yes.
Well, I would label myself a libertarian and a conservative, you know, and I think most of your listeners are conservative. So we had every right to be mad at Stephen Colbert for his insults to Donald Trump.
Yeah.
That was an insult to the President of the United States, and as Fox News said, and as many conservative outlets said, it was disgusting and it was outrageous. Now, why is the LGBTQ community stealing our rage and our insult and saying they're offended that Colbert made, because he made a reference to Donald Trump sucking Putin's pee-pee on the air and made a crude joke about the president? That should offend us as conservatives, yes,
right.
And that's disgusting about the president. But how is it homophobic and anti-gay for somebody to make a joke about another man sucking another man's pee-pee? I don't get how that's homophobia. Isn't that what gay people tend to do? I mean, things too.
So I'm told. So I'm
What's
told.
that?
Hello?
I lost you, Xander.
Yeah, I said so I'm told.
I mean, I don't understand how that was homophobic. It was a crude, tasteless insult against the President of the United States. And he should be fired for it because it was disgusting. It should have never been on network TV, and it was insulting. But how the LGBT community says that was homophobic, I don't understand it.
Well,
and then,
go ahead.
Trump's executive order, which had nothing to do with the LGBTQ community. You know, the day before, I saw on all the gay news sites, Trump is going to discriminate against us tomorrow. Stay tuned. So it didn't happen. It did not happen. He issued an executive order
Right.
being tax exempt, and being able to endorse political candidates. It had nothing to do with gay people or transgendered people.
Right.
Newsflash. It was about churches being able to endorse political candidates.
Well,
and the headlines read, Donald Trump gives churches the right to discriminate against gay people, against transgendered and gay people will lose their housing and their employment because Donald Trump just gave people the right to do that.
All right,
Where is this lunacy coming from?
All right, take a breath for a second and I'll attempt to tell you. Now, it's an unfortunate byproduct of the leaps and bounds that the LGBTQ community has managed to achieve over the last 20 years, that they want more than equality, they actually want equity. And that's a huge concern for me, and I'm an openly gay person. But secondary to that, there is this constant ideology within that community that even if you mention anything that's even disagreeable, or you disagree with a gay person, that's homophobic. And it's a real liberal ideology that if you disagree, it's, you know, you're a phobe or a hater or something of that ilk. But I think we need to challenge it. But when you do challenge it, you're homophobic or racist or discriminate for challenging the fact that someone's had the audacity to say that to you. But we've brought this about, don't you see that?
But now, see, what I don't get is, I follow you there, Xander, because that's the way it was up until a few weeks ago. But this is, and I will take a breath for this, because this is important.
Right.
This is a new low for them. I mean, now they're not just saying if you disagree with them, you're homophobic. But now they're creating illogical fallacies of insults and discriminations. For God's sake, Stephen Colbert, his joke was basically saying the President of the United States was gay. How is that homophobic?
Right.
In any way, shape, or you can't logically connect that to homophobia or an insult.
No.
You can't. Likewise, the order that Trump gave, making sure churches are tax exempt if they endorse political candidates, there was no connection there to the LGBT community. So now they're inserting themselves into issues that have nothing to do with them and claiming discrimination and offense when it's got nothing to do with it.
But you know that. Well, here's the thing. I'm going to kind of go back to what I was saying before. We have created this, and whilst I'm not suggesting that gay people shouldn't have the same rights as anybody else, but when you're inserting yourself into an argument as a gay person that's absolutely nothing to do with you or your community, it's time to shut the F up, surely. Because, you know, even just the things that you've mentioned, you see, but this is the thing, I have to point this out. It's not gay people, it's the leadership. And I don't know who elected this leadership, because I didn't. I know you didn't. And I can't even call it the LGBTQ, ABCDFG community anymore. The acronym that's ever encompassing is a bother to me, because it's not all of those things. It's actually the gay community, as far as I'm concerned. And it was when, you know, unfortunately, when the lesbians came along and inserted themselves, no pun intended, to that community, and took over, that's when the problem started to happen. So I'm 200% behind gay people, but the LGBT community can kiss my fat Jewish fanny, because ultimately, if you want more than equality, I can't fight for that for you. If you want to be more than equal, then surely that makes you a liberal.
Well, here's the thing. Let me read you right from the Facebook post I'm referencing, and this is how Trump's executive order was being reported, and this is a direct quote. Quote, Trump just signed an order that will give anyone the right to deny you housing, employment, or basic human rights as long as they think it violates their religion.
Right.
And that was sent to all the LGBTQ people. Where's the correlation there? And I asked them that, and I confronted them on that, and they said, because we know it will lead to that. That was the justification.
But that's
the important point with this. The liberal justification is we interpret it this way. We think this this is what's going to happen, so we're going to report it as fact.
Wait, but let me stop you for a second, Tony. Aren't these the same people that were reporting that Donald Trump was going to put all gay people into concentration camps, with disco balls and all of that, and takes their rights away? Well, we're 100 days in. Gay people aren't in concentration camps, and half of the crap that these people have assumed and presumed and twisted has not happened. And the concern for me is that what it is, it's kind of like it's kind of like race baiting, but gay baiting. Do you know what I'm saying?
I do, and I made the argument to them, and I felt I made a very valid argument. It was in writing, so you can't say it was being too loud. I was on Facebook, and I put in writing, show me where in this order any of this is taking place.
Right.
Show me. It does not say that. And the response I got was insults. You're stupid. You're ignorant. You don't understand. That's what this order means. And I'm like, but, guys, you don't understand. You're telling people that's what it says, and it doesn't say what you're saying.
Right, but let me stop you again.
It doesn't matter.
But let me stop you again. Let me stop you again. But that is one of the big problems with social media, that people will not read the article. They'll just read the assumption at the top that someone is providing. But the concern for me is, I don't like an article, and I won't allow myself to be tagged in an article unless I've read it, because far too often. I'll give you a perfect example. There was an article going around. I'm not particularly wonderfully, fanful of Whoopi Goldberg right now, because she's a great actress, and she's funny, but she pisses me off because she's trashing the president all the time. But there was an article going around saying that she'd said bad things about the guy. I can't remember the guy, but basically he was saying. The article said that she was going for 5 minutes of fame. And I watched the clip, and she didn't say that at all. And so there is an onus on us to read an article before either liking it or commenting on it, because we cannot simply accept someone else's interpretation of what an article says, or what a particular statute says. Because, I've preached against this so often, and what it is that far too often people are taking the watered down opinions of others and making them their own to look intelligent. But then they look extremely stupid when you actually look into it further, because it turns out that that's not what was being said at all. I just want to stop for 1 second, because I want to say hello to the people in the live feed, because I know they get a little they feel a little bit neglected. So hey to CV, hi to Dave, happy Friday to you too. Yes, Zell, it's Friday. Welcome. Hello to Gina. I hope you're getting the feed. I hope it's working for you. But if you're not, it's Facebook that's to blame. Hi to Shyster. Welcome. It's nice to see you all of our early birds. Welcome to the feed. But I really just want to say, Tony, that I think that when we disperse our personal responsibility with things by just clicking like or agreeing without checking it out, we're part of the problem.
No, I agree with you, and this is so beyond the. I ranted about the LGBTQ community, but it really is a problem with America today. I don't know if you heard the other news that Google changed the definition of fascism. They literally they rewrote the dictionary definition of fascism so that it would read more like conservative. That if you read Google, if you type in fascism, the Google meaning comes up, and you basically think it was a conservative. I mean,
wow.
People are rewriting the meaning of things. They're taking things that are being done, and instead of reporting what's being done, they're reporting their interpretation of what's being done,
right.
and not distinguishing. It's like me saying, oh, it rained today, and I just see the clouds, and I think, oh, it must have rained, therefore I'm reporting it rained. It's
right.
crazy.
Absolutely, I totally agree with you. Now, I want to change the subject somewhat and jump into our first topic of the day, before we kind of get the wrath of homosexuals in the United States and all the hate mail. If you want to complain about Tony or I, you can actually do that via Xander Gibb at idon'tgiveacrap.com and Tony Losacco at idon'tgiveacrap.com too, where we will totally ignore your incoming transmission. So FBI Director James Comey branding some WikiLeaks reports today as intelligence porn. During his Wednesday testimony before the Senate Judiciary Committee on Russia's role in the presidential election. Now, Comey made the comments after Senator Ben Sassy, what an unfortunate name, hey Ben, you're too sassy, asked him to explain why he doesn't consider WikiLeaks to be a legitimate journalistic organization, because if the information that they're giving is correct, that surely makes them more legitimate than CNN. It's an important question because all of us care deeply about the First Amendment and the ability of a free press to get information about our work and publish it. Comey began before delving into his rationale. To my mind, it crosses a line when it moves from being about trying to educate people and instead just about intelligence porn, frankly. Just pushing out information about sources and methods without regard to interest, without regard to the First Amendment values that normally underline press reporting, and simply becomes a conduit for Russian intelligence service or some adversary of the United States just to push out information to damage the United States. But clearly this is not about pushing information that damages the United States. It was actually about pushing information that damages the Democratic Party. Now, the first thing I want to ask you, Tony, is I don't know whether you're a fan of WikiLeaks or not, but is it appropriate for them to be sharing information? And also, isn't it time that the whole Democratic community shut up about Russia?
Well, it depends on who you're asking if it's important that and appropriate for WikiLeaks to share information. If I'm the government and I've got a dirty secret I don't want out, then of course I think it's inappropriate. But if I'm an average citizen that has no idea about the dirty crap my government's doing, you bet I want to know it, and I don't think that's treason. I don't think that's treacherous. I think, let it all come out, let it all be revealed. Let's learn about all the governments all over the world, all the corporations, dirty little secrets. We should know about these things so we can protect ourselves from them and be more aware of what is going on globally. So I see nothing wrong with leaking that thing. Now, I'd feel differently if it was troop movements or,
that's different.
Leaking the next secret weapon of the United States, for instance. But when it comes to scandals and undercover and black ops, I think it's totally appropriate. And government waste and things.
Yeah, I do too. And especially, here's the thing for me. During the last election, which was pretty bitter, there was a lot of back and forth there. But I think that if it's about correcting information and you have proof of that, then it's perfectly acceptable to do that. And often they've said, it's not fair because Russia got this information. Number one, I don't think it matters who got the information. But number two, if it was Russia that was able to get the information, if your security is so lax that anybody can get in, then that's a concern. Then that needs to be looked at. But the thing that the Democrats are claiming, without, actual proof, I can sit here all day and tell you that I weigh 130 pounds, but it doesn't make it true, unfortunately, because there are a number of people out there that still believe that Donald Trump colluded with Russia in order to win the election. And the thing is, at the end of the day, it's a cop-out to feel that way when the answer is that people were sick to death of the same old, and that's why they didn't want to vote for Hillary Clinton. It's absolutely that simplistic, isn't it, Tony?
Yes, it is. Now, Hillary Clinton, that's a whole other story. I mean, people are still posting on Facebook articles about, Hillary and the scandals. And honestly, at this point, I think we really need to move on from Hillary Clinton and what she has done and what the Obama administration has done, and just focus on defending our president and exposing all the current corruption and draining the swamp right now. And the health care law did nothing to drain the swamp whatsoever, but I know we're going to probably be talking about that soon.
Absolutely. I just think that ultimately she still needs to be brought to task for her actions. It's not enough to say, oh, well, she's not in power and she didn't win and she should be left alone. No, she shouldn't. She should be accountable for the things that she's done. And she's got away with far too much. And it's not fair that innocent Americans are in jail for doing far less than she did. You know, there has to be a standard, and the standard should apply to everybody, including her. And when it doesn't, it's definitely a worry for me, because we should all be held to the same standard.
Yes, that's true.
So, you know, I live in hope. I think she needs to be prosecuted and put in jail. And it will serve as an example to those politicians out there that feel like they're untouchable.
Well, you know, I've got a radical view on that. I think if we want to start locking people up and putting them in jail, we could probably start with just about every member of Congress.
Yes.
I'm sure there's enough on all of them that they could all do some jail time.
Let's start with the things that we can prove, because it's very easy to assume people's guilt around
That is
things.
true.
But we can prove Hillary Clinton's guilt about so many things. You know, Benghazi, losing $6 billion, while she was in the State Department, and mishandling of classified information times 33,000. So let's even just look at those few things, because the thing is that all these things that people say about Hillary, I'm sure some of them are not true, but when you think about it, they can't all be untrue. Now I want to move on to talk a little bit about the healthcare bill again, because within minutes of the passage of the American Health Care Act in the House on Thursday, people are actually referring to it as Trump Care, which I think is kind of trite. Democrats moved to fulfill Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi's warning to Republicans that their votes for the highly unpopular bill would be tattooed to your foreheads. Democrats predicted confidence Republican votes for the AHCA would be an electoral boom for the minority party next November, chanting "Hey, hey, hey, goodbye" as the final tally was announced. Now, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee launched a campaign to target the districts of 30 Republican incumbents as vulnerable with Instagram and Facebook ads. Now, the first Democrat out of the gate was Virginia gubernatorial candidate Tom Perillo. Shortly after the vote was final, his campaign pushed out an ad showing him standing in front of an ambulance in the jaws of a car-crushing machine. In the spot, Perillo highlights his 2009 vote for the Affordable Care Act. He represented Virginia's 5th district, but lost after a single term as part of the Republican wave in 2010. Ambulance was among YouTube's trending videos on Thursday night and into Friday. Now, in the high-profile race to fill Tom Price's vacant congressional seat in Georgia's 6th district, Democratic candidate Jon Ossoff came out with a statement against the vote on Thursday and said, "I strongly oppose this bill, which allows discriminations against Georgians with pre-existing conditions and would make health insurance unaffordable for millions of families." So I want to talk about, I did a lot of research today, and I couldn't find a lot of concrete information. Hey, Connie, welcome. With regards to what is contained in it. But some of the things that we do know about with regards to things like pre-existing conditions and that being taken away. This doesn't make me un-Republican or unconservative to say this, but I have grave concerns. What say you, Tony?
I think that the Republicans, in all fairness and honesty, just did exactly what they accused the Democrats of doing and what we hated the Democrats for doing. Nobody knows what's in this bill because it's a bunch of backroom deals.
Right.
And, they were so adamant with the Democrats for, you passed this thing and you didn't even know what's in it.
Right.
That's what the Republicans just did. They just jammed this. And I from the little I know, it's a really bad bill down the American people's throat. I mean, it took. From what I know of the bill, and I could be wrong, because like you said, there's not a lot of information out there about the specifics. But from what I understand, they got rid of the pre-existing conditions, which was helping people.
Right.
Okay. They got rid of the Medicaid expansion, which was helping a bunch of people. And what they did was, instead of getting rid of the Obamacare requirements that hurt all the people on policies, they said, well, if the state wants to, they can apply for a waiver for those requirements. Those requirements to cover everything was what was the failure of Obamacare to begin with, and they didn't really address it. They kicked it back to the state. There's nothing in this about competition between insurance companies like Trump promised and crossing state lines that I understand. And as far as covering pre-existing conditions, they put, what was it, $8 billion, I think, into a pre-existing illness pool, but that's a drop in the bucket. They know darn well that's not going to carry people with pre-existing conditions. So basically, they hurt the poor people, they hurt people with pre-existing conditions, and they didn't do nothing for the rest of us.
Right.
So that's how I feel about it. I feel it's worse in a way than Obamacare.
But you see, the concern for me is that if it's worse, then I think that they should have waited. They should have left what was in place until they got something better. Because, here's the concern for me. I'm just worried that there are, I can't afford health care.
Right.
To find $400 or $500 a month to pay for health care is just kind of pie in the sky for me and a lot of people. And there are families out there that are so affected by this that they have to choose every month whether to pay their mortgage and feed their kids or pay their rent or pay for health care. And most people tend to not go for health care unless they're already sick. And I see that because, there are so many people in the United States that are living below the poverty line. And if it's a choice of eating or paying for health care, you're going to eat and pay your rent every single freaking time. But the concern for me is that if they are going to replace it with something that's worse, what have we actually gained? We've gained nothing. And to take away the pre-existing conditions clause, I don't have a lot of good things to say about Obama or the Affordable Health Care Act. But one of them was that the pre-existing conditions thing, and the president said on the campaign trail that would stay. And so if you're going to take that away now, that is a concern for me.
Yes, that's going to hurt a lot of people. And you know what? I don't want to blame the Republicans for this, because this is classic of government. And as a libertarian, this is what I believe. Anytime people get in Capitol buildings and write laws that affect the rest of the population, they don't think about the implications of these laws and who they are going to hurt.
Right.
This is classic of government laws and regulations. They're not seeing the practical, everyday people that are going to be hurt by this, and that's the thing.
Yes.
Once again, I don't fault the Republican Congress for that, because it's a government problem. The government passes laws all the time, and they don't think about, or they don't care about, who it's going to affect in the real world and how it's going to hurt people in the real world, because they're insulating themselves from it. In fact, the earlier version of the bill had a special thing for them that they wouldn't be affected by their own law. Now it was leaked to the press, so they backed off on that. But what kind of BS is that, man? You're going to write a law that affects everybody else, and you're going to exempt yourself from it? That's crazy.
But that is totally un-American as far as I'm concerned. And, ultimately, Americans should be walking away from this bill better off. I said last night on the show that it's very disconcerting that, the American government has been in bed with the drug companies and health insurance companies for so long that its concern is actually not about the American people anymore. But I don't think that health care should be free. It shouldn't be free. In England, they have a social care model, but their social medicine model even is one of the everybody pays something. Everybody pays something towards towards their expenses. But here, the difference is that people are paying a premium every month, and that's what's crippling people. So, you know, you don't get any money back if you don't claim anything. You know, it's not like car insurance that your costs go down if you don't claim, if you don't need to use anything. It's all shifted in the direction of it benefiting the insurance companies, and that's not fair.
No, it's not fair, but you know something? This goes back to the original failure, and I want to be careful blaming the Republicans for anything, because the system we had was fine. You know, it could have been made better, but not the way Obamacare did. This goes back to the failure of Obamacare. To begin with, you cannot make insurance companies pay for health care. If you're going to give health care away to people for free, you don't do it through insurance. You do it through a socialized medicine, through tax. You expand Medicaid, you expand Medicare, or you take it out of everybody's check and pay for it, because insurance is based on profit. It's based on them making money. They're a business. So you can't mandate that an insurance company that's there to profit off of people not getting sick pay for sick people. It doesn't work. It's illogical.
Right.
And that was the failure of Obamacare, and the Republicans are repeating that same mistake. The fault isn't with insurance. Let the insurance companies do what they want to make their money. They're a business. If you want to give health care to people, give it to people through the government or grants or programs or charities or something like that. Leave the insurance out of it. Insurance is based on profit and business.
Right, absolutely. I think that this is, can I take your order?
Yeah, I want cream of some young guy.
Sorry, we're out of that. Would you like some? Anyway, no, let's not go there because it could get really dirty. This is Chet Martin from Freedom on Deck. I will be on your show on a Sunday night, sir. That's correct, isn't it? Sunday afternoon, even.
Sunday afternoon, 3 to 5.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody can listen. 949newsnow.com. That is terrestrial radio. Yes. Xander Gibb, Xandermonium, Xrad will be there, and we're going to talk about some interesting things, aren't we, Xander?
We are, indeed. But tell us, what did you want to add to our conversation with regards to healthcare?
Well, with healthcare, you know, it's the pre-existing conditions that have kind of slapped me in the face, and, you know, I haven't seen that they're taking them out. It was Michael Savage himself that was talking about these pre-existing conditions. I don't want to pay for people's pimple problems. I don't want to pay for somebody that's pregnant. I don't want to pay for anorexia. You know, these things are not health conditions that I think the average American should have to cover. Do you guys agree with me there, Tony?
I do to an extent.
Yeah.
What about the terminal illnesses that you left out of the picture, like cancer or things like that were pre-existing, or HIV? See, you're kind of talking about the outrage part of it, but there are people with pre-existing conditions that legitimately need help.
And
we
I take it
have to pay for them as part of our insurance.
Absolutely.
Like I said, if the government's going to do it, they should fund that, but fund it directly through some sort of other program and not include it with our regular insurance.
Right. But let me ask you this. Do you think we should be paying for people's gender reassignment, Chet? I know the answer to this.
No.
Right.
No.
So who should be paying for that then?
We should be paying for them to see a psychiatrist. Oops, now I'm going to get banned from the show. I'm sorry.
No, absolutely, you won't get banned from the show. You wouldn't get banned from the show for that. I said, who should be paying for it then, Chet?
Them. They should be paying for it. And you know, another thing that Tony brought up, and I hate to go down this path, but if Bruce wants to inject himself with harmful toxins and putting them into his vein, and he's sharing a needle with somebody else, I don't want to pay for his health care either.
Right.
I think there are ways to find out, and I think it has to be established in a way that we know what we're paying for, right? I mean, pre-existing conditions, okay. There should be a category in which it falls under, like Tony was saying, cancer, HIV. These things, okay, I can buy under that.
Right.
When I'm paying for somebody's high blood pressure because they eat like a fat cow, I have an issue with that. You're making life decisions.
But enough about Michael Moore.
Sorry.
Enough about Michael Moore. I want to ask you about the ideology that they use in the UK, that everyone pays something, but it's based upon what you can afford. Now, there are too many boxes here in the UK with regards to income. And for me, the thing is that if you can't afford to pay for healthcare because you're feeding your kids and paying your mortgage or your rent, you should pay less. I think that that's fair. Or is that too much of a socialist ideology?
Yeah, it's too socialist for me.
Well, you know something? Speaking of the socialist thing, now don't get me wrong, I definitely don't want our caller to misunderstand me. I'm not for this. But if they were going to do this, they should have just been honest about it and socialized our medicine.
Right.
It would have almost been better. We would have been better off almost if they did that. If they said everybody's on government medical care, we're taxing you another 20%. I would have had a fit. I would have been protesting in Washington, but at least I knew what I was dealing with. This kaboogalage mess of stealth of basically wealth redistribution, because that's what Obamacare was wealth redistribution. It was forcing young, healthy people to pay for older people's medical care. Let's get that out in the open there too.
Right.
That's exactly what Obamacare was for. It was for wealth redistribution. But
Right.
at least be honest about it. Say, hey, we're socializing medicine, everybody, and the people that have money are going to pay for the people that don't. You know, at least be honest.
But let me throw something else into the ring here. How about if the health insurance companies didn't take so much of a profit from this, which made health insurance cheaper, so therefore it would make it more affordable. But the way that it's pitched right now is that it's all about the insurance company making money, and screw every average American who's, doing their best to get by.
You know, hear me loud and clear on this. The government meddled in a private business. That's never good news. Just look at Amtrak and you'll know that, okay?
Yeah.
The government interfered in a private insurance. It was meant as a private for-profit business. The government took it over, and that is the failure of Obamacare right there. The government took over a business no different than if they took over the auto industry or something. They took over a private business, which had nothing to do with healthcare. They took over the business end and said, oh, you're going to pay for healthcare. If they wanted us to pay for healthcare, like I said, they should have put some sort of government big brother program in place and done healthcare that way. What they did was they took over a private industry, and that's where we have the screw up.
Absolutely, I would totally agree.
Readily available for people to have the drugs because it's not health care, it's health business, and we all know that.
Right.
Why is it
But that's the problem.
available for people that need these drugs as far as, let's go back to what Tony said with HIV. Look at Magic Johnson. Magic Johnson has gotten rid of his disease. He no longer has it. They've tested him. It's no longer there. So he is taking a concoction of drugs that has cured him of his disease.
Right.
Now, why is that not affordable to the people in our country? And forget about the third world countries. I really don't care. I mean, I don't mean to be brash about it, but let's make things more affordable and release these drugs. Let the people cure themselves. Let them figure out how to do it.
Right. Let me just. You are 95% right about Magic Johnson, but it's actually not that he's not HIV positive anymore. He just has an undetectable viral load. And the only reason he has an undetectable viral load is because he's putting those drugs into his body every day to keep the viral load down. But I absolutely agree with you 200% that should be available for everybody. Everyone that has HIV should be able to get the same level of treatment, or cancer, or whatever they've got. They should be able to get the same level of treatment. And it's a concern that how rich you are can pertain to whether you will live or die with regards to healthcare.
And that goes right back to the pharmacy. But you know what? Once again, we have a case of government regulation keeping people from the care they need. The government has completely, and like with all these herbal remedies out there and natural substances, they've clamped down to they're closing down, and people swear by those natural remedies and those herbal supplements. I'm not saying that half of them aren't cons, but that's for me to decide. As a consumer, if it can cure, say, HIV or my cancer or something, let me do the research. Let me decide whether it's a con or a fake, but make it available to me. The government's clamped down on that, stopped that because of the pharmaceutical industry lobby. Likewise, medical marijuana. They would rather stuff people have a pill epidemic across this country than legalize medical marijuana. I mean, it's crazy how the pharmaceutical industry has everybody in the government almost in their pocket. And I don't want to say everybody, but
because everybody's getting payoffs. But doesn't that show that everybody's getting payoffs of one kind or another, whether it be a trip to here or a weekend there or a week in wherever? Everybody's getting payoffs from this, and that's why they subscribe to it, and that's how America works. And it's unfortunate that a byproduct of it is that the American citizens get shafted. Now I wanna change the. Oh, we have to let you go now, Chet, because our guest is pizzas. How may I take your order?
I would like a white pizza.
Right.
With pesto, fontina cheese, diced tomato.
Yep.
And Maxine Waters wig.
I'm sorry, we're totally out of Maxine Waters' wig tonight. Can we?
You don't have like a little, a lock of her hair?
No, but we do have some of Senator McCain's chest hair. Would you like that as an alternative?
Oh, yes, that would be perfect. Or even some fingernail clippings.
Absolutely. Welcome.
That was homophobic. I'm offended. That was homophobic.
Yes, it was very homophobic. Welcome back to the show. The Truth Fairy, also known as Thomas S Schmitz, who is a writer and editor with Conservatives for Palin. Welcome back, sir. How is your week been?
Good, and boys, I'm so sorry I called in late. I was busy. I had lost track of time. I was doing some Dolce & Gabbana for some friends. I have a pastor friend in Texas who's part of his flock. Their 6-year-old daughter died in a motorcycle accident, and they're having a hard time paying for the funeral. And so I was deep in meditation and prayer and all the other stuff I do with what people around here call Dolce & Gabbana. But it's just, I call it Christian Plus. And so I was doing that, and I just totally lost track of time. The Holy Spirit does tend to do that. So I apologize,
absolutely.
And I'm assigning no blame to the Holy Spirit, but that's why I'm late. I'm sorry.
Was there any mention of my car in that Dolce and Gabbana that you were doing?
I worked on that the other night, yeah.
Thank you.
Those Psalms that I gave you are very powerful when combined with the holy name of God. And I actually use the gematria, the transcendental arithmetic that you have to use to find the holy name of God within each Psalm. Because, God's name isn't God, and there's thousands of names. And so
absolutely.
It's called gematria. And the good news is they have an app for it now. But sometimes it's the old school way. It's an ancient Hebrew transcendental arithmetic that is used to find the hidden holy names of God within the book of Psalms, which is one of the most powerful magical books ever written. And each psalm has a specific purpose. Remember that message I sent you about, this psalm will be good for this and this will be good for that? People do, because I do psalm work for so many people, sometimes my phone just burns up all day with Thomas, can you help me with this problem, and so I do the psalm work for them and the gematria, and I give them the holy name of God for that psalm and which psalm is good. Like Psalm 3 is for headaches, for example, when combined with the correct holy name of God. So anyways, I just lost track of time.
Well, it's absolutely fine. We won't give you...
I'm spikenard right now, and so I'm trying to get that off of me. But anyways.
We won't be giving you a tardy slip today, but let's carry on a little bit from what we were talking about before you came on, and that's the Healthcare Act that's been announced this week. Some are calling it Obamacare Light. Some are really upset about the the cancellation of pre-existing conditions. How much do you know about it, and what is your level of response?
I think that it is a very, very good thing, and I would caution and urge all, not just Republicans, but whatever you consider yourself, Americans, is the correct answer, to think back to how Obamacare was passed and how long it took to pass and all the different versions it went through to pass. And I think we're being a little reactionary into poo-pooing it so fast off the track when, to undo something that took a whole long time to do to us,
right,
it's going to take a long time to undo what was done to us.
Right.
And you know what really struck out in my head, and since we're on the faith topic right now that I've kind of hijacked the show with, yesterday was a National Day of Prayer, and a lot of us who understand that abortion is infanticide and that Planned Parenthood is an abortion mill who are sacrificing children at the throne of the state, the altar of the state, I think people need to really read the new AHCA, because the House of Representatives voted on this yesterday, and it effectively repeals or replaces major parts of Obamacare. And I think, I know the pro-life lobby is going to be very, very happy, and Planned Parenthood is going to be very, very unhappy. There's part of the bill that I think is even more noteworthy than the entire bill itself. This part of the bill strips Planned Parenthood of its Medicaid funds for an entire year. And what that means is that this will redistribute around 80% of Planned Parenthood's federal funding to other comprehensive health care centers around the nation who actually do health care. Because,
right,
Planned Parenthood, the way that they get away with pretending to do women's health is in the lobby they have brochures, for mammograms and for hysterectomies and all this stuff, and they outsource it. And so they can technically claim that, we do women's health. And that's that same Bill Clinton, it depends on the definition.
Never had sexual relations with that woman.
I'm tired of that. And, currently Planned Parenthood is getting $553 million
wow.
of government funding annually. And instead of continuing this, with this kind of reconciliation type bill passed yesterday, it's going to reverse that huge majority of the abortion chain's funding for an entire year. And out of the Planned Parenthood $553 million, about $450, if I'm remembering that correctly, million that comes from Medicaid. 90% of that comes from the federal government.
Right.
So the cut in this reconciliation bill amounts to about approximately maybe 78 to 80% of Planned Parenthood's total government funding. And
right.
so we're going to see a decrease in infanticide. And for this bill to go
Good.
through on the National Day of Prayer, that's no coincidence.
No. No, but let me ask you this, Thomas. Isn't it naive to expect, because there are some things that I'm a little bit concerned about the new healthcare changes. But isn't it naive to think that you're going to like every aspect of any act?
Oh, yes, of course. But, with this one, it goes a step farther because, again, we have to think back to 2009 and all the incarnations that Obamacare went through. And Obamacare, there was the Senate bill, there was the House bill, there was, actually there were more than one Senate bill. And then after Scott Brown won the election in Massachusetts, they didn't have the votes to pass the Senate bill, which meant that they had to pass the House bill. And, imagine for a second, if you can, then wash your hands, that you're a Democrat. And if you're a Democrat, you're not going to like all those various versions of Obamacare from 2009 to 2010. You're going to have problems with each and every one of those, and certain factions of the Democrat Party are going to have a problem with this version of the bill, and certain factions of the Democrat Party are going to have this problem with this portion United States economy, it's going to take some time to get the bill to be where it needs to be.
Right.
So I would caution all Americans to, to celebrate. Take a day and celebrate that for the first time since Obamacare was passed, an actual repeal bill was passed, because for many years the House Republicans would say, oh, we passed all these Obamacare repeal bills, and they never did. They were defunding bills.
Right.
And defunding and repealing are two separate things.
Absolutely.
So again, I would encourage everyone, all Americans, to stand up, pat themselves on the back. We finally made a meaningful, not symbolic, a meaningful step towards getting rid of the unaffordable and unwanted, overreaching,
un-American. Absolutely. Now, I want to change the subject for a moment in the time that we have left. And I want to talk a little bit about Hillary Clinton. I am very concerned that this woman just does not give up the ghost and sit and paint pictures of all the people she's had bumped off in her career. And it was announced this week that she's going to be having some kind of advisory role with the Democrats, but not with regards to her running for office again. But wouldn't we think, with the level of criminality that this woman has gotten away with, that she would just go and keep quiet and say nothing?
Yes, Hillary Clinton does need to go back to the woods, and I think she's going to have some opposition to this, because,
right.
Nancy Pelosi, I think we talked about this on Monday, Xander. Nancy Pelosi is facing a primary challenge from a Bernie Sanders supporter who still hasn't forgiven the DNC for cheating Bernie Sanders out of the DNC nomination for president of the United States.
Wait.
Remember, Debbie Wasserman Schultz had to resign for cheating.
Wait, did you mean buying or cheating?
There's going to be a civil war within the Democrat Party,
right.
And it's going to be a good thing, because the younger Democrats who have been kind of sidelined by the Clinton machine, they've had enough, and they're tired of the Clintons, re-injecting themselves into politics. And this whole thing, like the other day, this speech where Hillary Clinton told Christine Amanpour, I take responsibility for losing the election, and then went on to blame all these other people. The irony in that is the exact reason why America doesn't like the Clintons, because for years the Clintons have done these horrible things, and then it's never their fault. They always have this long, drawn-out explanation of how it's someone else's fault.
But isn't there...
It's so ironic for her to do that, because that's why she lost. That's one of the reasons why she lost the election.
But isn't there some kind of disagreement with regards to the fact whether that was taken away from Bernie or Bernie sold it? Because it's kind of interesting that 5 minutes later, him and his wife had a new summer house. Don't you think?
Yeah, there is, but there's no dispute when you look at the systems that the DNC has for their nominating process for president with these superdelegates, because, superdelegates are not people like you and me who bust their butt and follow the rules and fill out the forms, because in each state it's different. Here in California in 2012, I couldn't get an answer from the Los Angeles GOP, the California GOP, or the federal GOP on how to be a delegate in California.
Right.
No one could give me an answer from the actual offices. And finally, about the night before the deadline, my mom sent me a fax, because my mom works at this place, I can't really say, where I kind of call her my rhino spy. And my mom sent me this form where all I had to do was fill out this paperwork and send $2,500, and I would be a delegate. Well, that's messed up. And so on principle, I tore it up and said, screw that. But the Democrats, their system, they have these super delegates who they don't even have to do that. They're just appointed by the party. Like Christine Pelosi Pelosi is a superdelegate. Nancy Pelosi is a superdelegate. These are delegates that are picked by the National Party.
Right.
And so the cat was in the bag for Hillary Clinton. I think the house that he ended up getting that costs more money than he makes, maybe that was a consolation prize. Maybe
Probably
that was
so.
to get him to stop, to, end his campaign. Who knows? We'll probably never know.
Absolutely.
But it's much more corrupt on the DNC side than it is on the RNC side.
Absolutely. We are kind of very nearly out of time, but I just want to give Tony the last word on
Please do. It's my fault.
on Hillary Clinton. No, it's no one's fault. Last word to you, Tony, on Hillary Clinton. What say you?
She is a great American patriot, and Hillary in 4 years. No, I'm kidding.
Where's that block button?
I think that Hillary has had her day, and I think the topic of Hillary, quite frankly, as I told you, Xander, is old and dead, and I think we should move on to defending our president and not be so focused on Hillary and Obama and the past. We need to move forward with the future and not backwards.
But we should still lock her up, though, right?
No. See, I disagree with that. I think we just need to move forward at this point, honestly.
Wow. Well, I think you would have a lot of disagreement from a lot of other conservatives, but we will talk about that more next time. Thanks to everyone who's made today's show possible. Thanks to our guest, Thomas S. Schmitz. Tell people they can find you, Thomas.
No, let Tony say something. Everyone knows where to find me. It's on your page right now. Tony, say something else.
Sure, if he wants to very quickly, but we're like 3 minutes away. Go ahead, Tony.
You can find me at The Full Story on both Facebook and YouTube, and the third side of the story, that's the number 3 IRD, on Facebook and YouTube, and hopefully I'm going to get around to posting some videos one of these days soon again.
Absolutely. We look forward to seeing that. So thank you so much to our guest, Thomas S. Schmitz, who will be back with us on Monday. Thank you, Thomas. Have a great weekend. Give our best to Jim.
Oh, thank you, Xander, and thank you, Tony. And again, I apologize for calling in late.
No worries. Thanks a lot, Thomas. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye. And thanks to Tony Losacco. Make sure you check him out and follow him on social media. Thanks a lot, Tony. Have a great weekend, and give our best to Kiko. Take care. Bye-bye. We will be back with you on Monday. My co-host is Thomas S. Schmitz, and I can't remember who the guest is. But yes, Dave, lock her up. Please share the video before you leave. Have a great weekend. Stick around and catch me on The Real Side with Joe Messina right after this show. And you can catch me on Sunday afternoon on Freedom on Deck with Chet and Justin. Make sure you stick around and check them out. I really do love you all. Stay safe and stay warm. I love you. Bye-bye. It has been good to me this time around. Things were bound to change when it was